Every once in a while, there's a special award that's given out at Purdue University, the One Brick Higher Award. Almost anyone's eligible, students, faculty, staff, but it's an extremely rare honor given to someone who exceeds far beyond their normal university role to improve the lives of others. It's hand-delivered by the campus president, and the recipient usually has no idea it's coming. The origin of that phrase, one brick higher, has a lot to do with what happened here at the site of Heavlin Hall. Today, it's home to Purdue's Writing Lab, English Department, and the Speech, Language, and Hearing Sciences. But it didn't always look this way. Once upon a time, this was Heavlin Hall, a storied landmark unlike any other at Purdue. And when they tore the building down in 1956 due to its aging infrastructure, there were protests and tears. Weeks before the demolition, trustees made sure to climb the 140-foot clock tower and safely remove the bells and clock. It was assumed that the wrecking ball would topple the old tower in 3 minutes. It took 3 days. A few years later, the Heavlin Hall we know today arose in its place to carry on a name and a story that forever shaped a land-grant university.
Monday, August 15th, 1892. I am 64 years old today and feeling very unwell.
Amos Heavlin was an uneducated man. He was a farmer. He lived with his mother and father, and when they died, he lived alone. His whole life was his work. He was also a banker. He was very wealthy. It was late in his life, and he was trying to decide what to do with it.
Farming is about all I know how to do, but now my strength has been failing fast for several years. I fear that I have not many birthdays left me in time.
In the 1890s, we had a president named James Smart, a good name for a president, Smart. He was going to make Purdue Engineering one of the best engineering schools in the country.
He was very pragmatic. He was very beloved by the students.
He was very good at persuading people to give Purdue money. And he's not forgettable either with those chops, so.
Purdue in the 1890s began with only 530 students. Every student knew one another. There was locomotive testing going on campus. There were wood shops and various blacksmith shops and foundries. And so there was a great deal of interest to create a landmark sort of building on campus to bring all these things together.
The crown jewel would have been the mechanical building. Despite lack of enthusiasm by the state legislature.
Just knowing also what I've learned about how his health was failing, and this project to get this building built was so important because it would really put Purdue on the map for engineering education. It was going to be the big statement.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Charles.
The gentleman I spoke to you about, he's waiting downstairs.
Is he? Very good.
On another matter, the dorm devils are at it again.
What is it this time? More roosters in the chapel organ?
There is a cow on the roof of the men's dormitory.
Friday, September 22nd, 1892. I went to Lafayette at Purdue University today. I think this institution will do much good to a class of young men and women that are worthy. I think I could not do better with some of my means than to help them.
Amos, like President Smart, they were both very sickly people.
The main reason I think that he gave the funds is he was close with a trustee named Charles Stewart, and so they were able to make that connection through that trustee.
Financially, I've done well. I have enough to help my 3 old sisters if they ever need help. I concluded to donate almost 1/2 of my whole life's accumulations. I gave $35,000 to Purdue University.
This is a big deal because with that money, this vision he had was achievable.
They had a big ceremony. James Smart said there's a man in this room who has given us a tremendous amount of money, and he is going to enable us to build the best engineering building in the nation. The students all cheered. Heavlin, who was a very shy man, was overwhelmed. He goes home and writes in his diary how he wished he could have enjoyed it more, but he was so overwhelmed.
I was introduced to 600 students. The cheers I got were deafening. The only time in my life that I could do anything that appeared to be appreciated. My natural timidity prevented me from enjoying it to its full extent. Yet, it was the happiest day of my life.
My dear Mr. Hevelin, the contractor will break ground for the Hevelin building within a few days. The entire structure of brick and stone trimmings will have an acre of floor space. It will contain numerous workshops, laboratories, a forge, even a museum. We will always welcome you heartily when you can pay us a visit. You have established yourself for all time in the affections of the university. Believe me to be very truly your friend, James Henry Smart.
We have one photo that I'm aware of it newly completed. Only one.
The day of the dedication, all sorts of dignitaries came to campus, including the governor. And of course, Amos Hevelin was already dead by that time.
It wasn't known as Hevelin Hall when it opened. It was known as the Mechanical Engineering Building. And yet, 4 days later,
the boiler in the boiler room blew up.
There was an explosion in the boiler room, and then another explosion. And in a very short period of time, Hevelin Hall was engulfed in flames.
There was a lot of equipment in there with a lot of different kinds of fuel.
People in Lafayette could see it up on the hill from around their homes. They were running up and down their streets saying, "Purdue is on fire, Purdue is on fire."
we have a photo in the archives of the fire while it's happening. And you can see individuals cast in shadows trying to work to douse the flames. And it's 1894, and for someone to have had a camera and the presence of mind to take this photo shows that this was a really big event.
It was the biggest fire that had ever happened in this community. Students were running into the building where they can, trying to pull things out to save the equipment from being burned.
The local fire stations arrived. By that time, it was too late.
James Smart, the president, came from his home in Lafayette.
He just stood there. His dream, all of the stuff he had worked for, was on fire.
It was going to be the big statement for Purdue as an engineering college in the U.S. You know, the best equipped building that money could buy, and then to have it burned down.
It was described as the most horrible and the most beautiful thing anybody had ever seen. It got a lot of national attention.
The next day, everybody gathered together in the chapel on the 4th floor of University Hall. That's where the One Brick Higher speech took place. And there are various versions of exactly what was said, but they all agree on that one point.
This morning we are looking to the future, not the past. I am thankful that no one was injured. I have shed all my tears for our loss last night.
Everyone was discouraged. Nearby, the building was still smoldering. The whole room must have reeked of smoke. Smart stood up before him.
And I tell you, that tower shall be rebuilt.
He said, "I tell you, young men, we will build that tower one brick
higher."
This was not the end. This was just a new beginning.
Every president since has used that phrase.
I just think it shows what a good leader Smart was, because he could have taken that moment and broken down, but he instead used it as a way to inspire people.
One of the things that Smart was very fearful of is that all those engineering students would transfer to other schools. But within 6 days, the university built classrooms and laboratories out of board and batten construction. And within 2 weeks, classes had resumed. The enthusiasm of we can't let this stop us must have been very infectious.
The community was so touched by what had happened, they put so much into it, that it was not very long before they had plans in place to rebuild the building.
Because Purdue had to reach out to industry and really rely on a lot of help from businesses providing state-of-the-art equipment, and they ended up with an even better building than they started with.
They put in firewalls between the different laboratories. There were groups that funded a clock, which became one of the icons of the university.
Fastest, I think, rise of a building from the literal ashes.
It was a transformation of what the campus looked like. And this bell tower was a big part of it.
It became this symbol of Purdue being able to fight against the odds.
And so President Smart set the gauntlet down, if you will, right there. And engineering at Purdue grew and grew and grew, not only in expertise, but national and international prestige. And that continued through, obviously, all the way through the 20th and now 21st centuries.
When I hear people say one brick higher, it's a sense of pride that Purdue is strong.
Kind of like the term Boilermakers, one brick higher has stuck.
This is almost like Purdue's version of the Nobel Peace Prize, if you will.
You know, that they have created an award with that phrase. It shows that, you know, this thing that happened over 100 years ago is still very much part of the identity of Purdue.
I'm a custodian, as you probably know, and I was emptying trash, and something compelled me to read a note that was in the garbage. I don't know why. I read the note, and it was a student kind of described how they were going to commit suicide if changes didn't come quickly in their life. And it just didn't sit well with me. One of the guys come in that's kind of like a leader in our building, and I gave the note to him. Within 2 days, they had found the boy that had wrote it and gotten him help. I had no idea about the One Brick Higher Award until it was presented to me. Mitch Daniels comes in and starts saying that there is one very special award that's going to be awarded, and then he announces my name. Sorry. It was just a shock. Very exciting. To me, it was just doing my job.
How many people walk by Heavlin Hall today? Are they really familiar with this amazing history of that building and that name?